to make the connection between the notes, because there aren't any connections there explicitly. In a text, it's like first this happened, then this happened, then this happened, then the conclusion. And you can follow the author's train of thought because the author intended you to follow his sort of sequence, right? What's beautiful about Nietzsche is that you just get blurbs, you just get flashes of light, and they're very bright flashes of light. But when the light sort of, when the light ebbs, when it retracts, it's now your interpretation that counts. How do I link those concepts? Because he had a connection in his head that he never got to, or were in different books. But how do I make sense of this? And this is why I think the text is absolutely genius for pedagogy. It absolutely mandates, because it's note form, you to fill in the blanks, right? And as long as you can justify how you fill in the blanks, then by all means fill in the blanks with whatever subtext that you wish, right? So I think this is a very, very good thing. Now, the quantum of happiness. The quantum humanness, what am I talking about? Sorry. H-U-M-A-N-E, I just blanked out. N-E-S-S. Okay. The quantum of humanness. Okay. First note, quote, that this is not felt generally is itself poor. Now, I actually want to read that within context, 63. So first, I'm going to read that whole first paragraph, note 63. On the whole, a tremendous quantum of humanness has been attained in present-day mankind. You see how he says present day instead of modern, right? Modern being pejorative, present day just talking about, and this is actually a really good point. Modern being modern world, which leads to pessimism. I would say present day being not modern, being the world of existence, right? So I don't think even the selection of the word present day was arbitrary in the text, personally. I don't read German, I don't speak German, but the fact that he used present day here rather than modern, I think is recognition that he doesn't want to conflate his own concepts. Present day being the world of existence, which does not lead to nihilism. Modern worldview leading to nihilism, right? So, on the whole, a tremendous quantum of humanness has been attained in present-day mankind. A lot of good stuff has happened. Leaps and bounds in human evolution and scientific thought, which he talks about later and blah, 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 blah. That this is not felt, the fact that we have made such strides. And the reason is, well, why hasn't it been felt? It hasn't been felt because everybody's been pessimistic, nihilistic, discouraged, right? We've become this Europe, the title of the chapter is European nihilism, right? Europe has not recognized this, that this has not been felt, and that this refers to this quantum humanness, right? That this has not been felt in general is itself a proof. We have become so sensitive concerning small states of distress that we unjustly ignore what has been attained. Now, this is where we start to have a sense of what I'm trying to construct here. That this is not felt generally is itself a proof. So, explain the importance of the term generally in above quote. Okay. This idea of general, we see, right? We see that, especially with Nietzsche, it's like detective work. That's why I love reading philosophy, right? Funny enough, I've read maybe, and I'm not joking, quick tangent again, I've read maybe less than 10. I've read less than 10 novels in my life, not including the ones that I've written myself. I've written less than 10 novels in my life. Everything I read is nonfiction. I only read nonfiction. I can't really read novels because you can't do this analysis, right? What's cool about this idea in Nietzsche is that it's filled with key points. This idea of generally, right? That this has not been felt generally. When we talk about generality, he just in a sentence before that talked about Rousseau. We know that Rousseau introduces the notion of the general will, and he says now that this hasn't been felt generally is proof that everything's going to crap. So it's sort of like a slap in the face to Rousseau, right? It's a slap in the face to the general will. It's like, oh, well, you guys are talking about generality, you guys are talking about a general will, but this generality, this general will, all I hear is, and then he discusses all he hears, right? All he hears is pessimism, discouragement, blah, 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 blah. No one's seeing the beauty in humanity. And he's saying that that's what's being overlooked. I want to, in a sense, create a system in which I can now turn my eyes, though I recognize this nihilism, away from that and see what this quantum of humanness is, right? So the first point in this discourse on the quantum of humanness is that it isn't the strides of human achievement is not acknowledged generally, right? So there is general failure, and a key concept we'll get back to later, a general failure to acknowledge human. Now this has changed, but for his time, right? A general failure to acknowledge human achievement, right? We've been focused. The totality of our reality isn't all. It's not all nihilism, doom and gloom, right? A lot of our account of reality has assumed that. A lot of our account of reality has assumed that it's been all black, right? That here's the general, and I don't mean general will specifically, I know what the general will is, but I'm just sort of exaggerating now, right? We can't collectively say that the general will of the people in Europe, the title of the chapter is European Nihilism, is all nihilistic, right? The general will of sort of European conceptions, European consciousness at the time is one of nihilism. There's a whole other side, right? So to sort of become fixated, as I talked about before, this sense of awe, this sense of immobilization, to be immobilized by our pessimism fails to recognize the quantum of human achievement, right? What is that quantum of human achievement, and how is it that we can acknowledge this capacity within us? We're not talking about, and this is important, right? We're not talking about the achievement of specific human beings. It's not about Einstein. It's not about great physicists and mathematicians. It's not about great philosophers and great scientists. It's not about great teachers and great historians and great politicians. It's not about any individual achievement. It is about the quantum of human achievement. It's about that inherent, if you will that we have to arrive at a level of accomplishment. How is it that we as a species do that, right? We talked a lot about this, but what about this? What about that? And that's what we're trying to make sense of. It's going to take quite a few hours, not within this lecture will I be able to fully address that, but I'm going to sort of, approach an understanding of that. So Nietzsche talks about three conditions, right? The first is a certain over-irritation even of moral feelings. We've heard the story again, and I want to read this within context, so I'll read, I'll actually just read from the text, because all three come from the text. So, second paragraph on 63. Here, one must make allowances for the existence of much decadence, and seen with such eyes, our world has a look wretched and miserable. Seen through such, I just erased it, but the black half, right? It looks wretched and miserable because our perspective, if you will, has been skewed, right? If I'm here, and here's my oh my goodness, what is it called? Here's my field of view, right? If this is my field of view, right? And all I see is that, then of course my interpretation of reality is going to be all black, right? But the fact is, my interpretation of reality is contingent on a perverse sense of what reality is, this nihilistic interpretation, right? So here, one must make allowances for the existence of much decadence, and seen with such eyes, these eyes, our world has to look wretched and miserable. But such eyes have at all times seen the same things. 1. A certain over-irritation even of moral feelings. We know what that means. I'm not going to explain that, right? 2. The quantum of embitterment and eclipse that pessimism carries into judgments. These two together, meaning our irritation with morality and the function of judgments, which I've talked about at length throughout, these two together account for the predominance of the opposite notion, that our morality is in a bad way. We recognize that our field of view is contaminated by this sort of monistic this monistic or monolithic interpretation